really important conversation about how we can keep our schools safe tonight. But it's a whole lot more. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. During this holiday period, we are producing mostly original and brand new shows for you, but they are without our usual rundown of the day's news because even chubby guys on television need to take a vacation every once in a while. So I hope you are enjoying some downtime, and I trust that you are, and you're getting ready for the new year. And we will embark come January 5th with a brand new rundown and a brand new show. In the meantime, we're having some important conversations. And a couple of weeks ago, actually just before Christmas, we had a really incredible guest on the program. Michele Gay has been working on a safe and sound school program. Oh yeah, who's she? She lost her daughter in Sandy Hook 2 years ago. Oh, right. You cannot find the words to capture the profundity of their loss and the project and the work, and so I'm not going to try to do that, but we'll listen to our guest and talk in terms of what happened on that particular day, what the SAFE program is all about, and what we're doing here in Rhode Island, and maybe have a little bit of a constructive conversation. You know, I have some very significant thoughts about school safety, so you'll remember the headline, of course, and they were. And it was unspeakable, and it is just, So we welcome you back to the broadcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In our last visit, you indulged us with a little bit of the conversation of the day. You know, nobody wants to be an ambulance chaser in this story, yet it's important, actually, to remember what the heck happened, right, to set the foundation for what it is that you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
2 years have gone by, and as you said a couple of weeks ago, it feels like what?
Again, sometimes like 5 minutes ago, and then sometimes it feels like a million years ago.
How's it feel today?
Wow, I guess somewhere in the middle. Today I feel like I have my feet, you know, I'm grounded here, and I'm grateful to be that way. I feel close to my daughter, surprisingly. I think that, you know, her birthday comes right before this dreaded anniversary for us. So as a family, we really focus on the celebration of her and her life and the years that we had together. And that makes Christmas, you know, possible for us. That makes it a celebration that we can have as a family.
2 other sisters.
2 olders.
Dad, who had a new gig.
Yep, Massachusetts.
You guys are planning, you had a contract for the house in Newtown. You were moving to Massachusetts, and you actually did through the entire thing.
We did, yeah. It wasn't,
I don't know how you did that.
Wasn't much of a choice, and I don't really know how we did it either, except that there were a lot of people, strangers, a moving company that was amazing, neighbors. People were around us all the time, cooking for us.
Neighbors in Newtown?
In Newtown. And then when we moved to Massachusetts, the neighbors were all there, ready for us.
They knew?
They did.
How? Why? What happened?
I think because it was just such national news, and because it was another northeastern community. And I think it hit everyone really hard, but particularly those of us in the Northeast, because Newtown looked like any other little northeastern hamlet.
And it is. And as I told the viewers and the listeners, I mean, there's video of the day. You know, I grew up between the ages of, between grades 3 and 8 in the adjacent town, Brookfield. I mean, we spent time in Newtown all the time. It just is like, it was so shocking. It would have been shocking anywhere. It was shocking, period. You've already gone through the play-by-play of the day for the most part. And of course, if you miss a show, you can look it up on foxprovidence.com. You can see the previous program that we've already done on this. But the incredible poignancy of this whole thing is that you hedged as to whether you're going to send Joey to school on that particular day.
Yeah.
And I just wonder. You can't kick yourself. It's a normal everyday thing.
You're gonna, you know, and every one of us families has a story like this where, you know, what if we had done this, or you know, what if we had done that, or there's just no way that you cannot. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that you know, you weren't out of line to send your child to this loving, wonderful school where her friends, her teachers, where this amazing, loving, nurturing atmosphere was. There was nothing wrong with that. It really, truly wasn't your fault. And you have to remind yourself of that.
I mean, of course it wasn't. But listen, I'm not a professional therapist.
The what ifs, yeah.
You are working on a very, very important project here because
I feel like that place was so sacred to my daughter, and because I practically lived there with her, I was very involved in the school.
You're a teacher.
I am. I was a former teacher, so this, for so many reasons to me, was something that I needed to champion in her honor. I needed to make sure that all of the other schools, all of the other communities that have, you know, teachers and young children, young adults, that in order to go and do what we want people to do, which is learn and grow and become responsible citizens, there's got to be this sense of safety and comfort, and you can't have that if you're going to school every day thinking, well, gosh, I hope what happened in Sandy Hook doesn't happen here. I hope what happened in Columbine doesn't happen here. That's no way to go to school every day. And I think everyone knows cognitively, intellectually, that it is rare. It is an absolute rarity that something like that would happen in your school, in your school community. But it doesn't change the fact that it's all of our worst nightmares, whether we're, you know, grandparents, teachers, children.
Having the courage to do this, and it is courageous, means what to you and to the other parents that live through this, all of whom I'm sure are dealing with this on other constructive, activist levels and very personal levels, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all approaching this in the best way that we can. And for some of us, that means just getting up in the morning and packing lunches and sending the surviving siblings to school and being present enough to be their parents, to maintain their therapy schedules, to provide, you know, the types of healing activities and the type of healing family environment that's needed to recover from this. And for some of us, it means, you know, setting off on a national mission. We're all very different. But for those of us who have found something to fight for, to work for, I think it helps us to maintain a presence here in this world, because otherwise it would be very easy to just check out.
All right. Well, she's checked in, and you'll find out what the program is when we come back. Stay with us.
The women's shared experience combined with their growing friendship and led them to create what they call Safe and Sound.
And then we got stuck on school security. And, you know, can you believe this? And how come nobody's talking about this? How come the conversations are about this and this and this, but nobody's saying, what are we doing about sending our kids to school tomorrow? Do we have that graphic? We started out with the idea of creating a website where people could come and gather information and take it into their schools.
The idea, use the site to advise parents, principals, school board members how to assess the current state of their school's security, and give them, free of charge, basic security plans they can alter as needed.
We're trying to put together a framework for folks to be able to work with and take into their own communities.
As with all good ideas, it's growing.
Yeah, obviously it is. How many communities are you working in right now?
Wow, I don't know. I would have to guess. I have traveled myself personally to about 25 different communities, and we maintain conversations with them about their initiatives, and we take a very facilitative, you know, role. We want it to be. Such a teacher
you are.
I am. You know, what am I going to do? Use what you got.
Yay.
You got to use what you got.
You got plenty.
Yeah.
What's the hands-on concept for people? What would they gain from what conversation you're trying to start?
I think so many of the school communities that we talk to are desperate to do something. They just don't know where to start. They just don't know how to pull it together. They don't know who to trust. They've bought gadgets and technologies before, but they want to be sure that they're doing the right thing with their precious resources.
Are you finding that a lot of communities just aren't prepared to have the conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we are invited to the communities that we go to. But every now and then there'll be, you know, a group of parents in a community that is really pushing to bring us in, and you know, some of the other stakeholders might not be ready for that.
Meaning the
so
politicians.
that can be challenging.
Yeah,
absolutely.
the school committees and the police who think they've got the whole thing
You know
covered.
what? The police have been with us every step of the way. I
Yeah?
can't say that I've ever had any. They already get it.
So what's the tangible thing that you're teaching, dialoguing on specifically? Give me an example of a community that you think went, we're nowhere here, and got involved with what you were discussing and got somewhere. Tell me what the point A to point B could be or has been.
So we developed a model called Straight A Safety, and there are 3 steps in the continuum. So assess is your first step. You really have to take a look at what's working well in your community, what areas of deficit might exist, what are your needs, what are your resources, what have you got to work with? And then you move into the ACT plan, which is where you do something about what you've learned. You know, take that information and build a plan. Start creating protocols and practices. Start making changes in the physical plant of the school. And then your third step would be audit. That's the continual awareness, the formal and informal checking of all of those measures and practices and things that you've put in place. And it's a cycle. It continues. It's never anything that's going to be done.
Where did you get the intel to create that? In other words, where did you, what basis of expertise did you either have or tap into in order to create it?
You know, I would say first and foremost, it was just my everyday, ordinary experiences as a mom and a teacher. And so I started putting these things together, and I started reading as soon as I was, you know, as soon as I had enough brain power to do that. Just started sifting through the information that's out there, and there's a ton. And there are amazing experts. You know, some are nationally renowned, and some are like next door that you just didn't even realize are here in your community.
Is there a philosophy that you embraced that you're trying to articulate?
Empowerment and education. We feel like that's the very first step toward making any type of meaningful change in your community.
What's the person on the couch to do if they think, you know what, I don't think our town's doing very well with this whole thing right now? What's the first step?
I guess you could say that's the philosophy. Get up. Get up off the couch and start a conversation at the bus stop, at the coffee shop, with your child's teacher, with the administrator. Start banding together with people that share your concerns and want to see some change happen.
Did Newtown have it right? Did Sandy Hook have it right prior to this god-awful disaster?
You know, I think we had many things right. There were things that were in place that saved us in a lot of ways that we could have never imagined that day. We had a single point of entry for our building, and it was locked during school hours. I would like to see it locked, you know, around the clock. I don't think school safety, you know, is only during the school hours, but we had that single point of entry. We had a buzz-in system of visitor registration procedures and protocols. All of our staff wore badges, and they had plans that they practiced. Our children had just went through a lockdown and offsite evacuation about a week before the real thing. So we definitely had a lot of things in place that were headed in the right direction. We couldn't have known, I think, because of the way that we were going about our planning, which wasn't a very collaborative model, wasn't involving our emergency responders, our police, our fire, wasn't involving the parents, didn't have student input, and also didn't have outside eyes. You know, a lot of people don't realize Homeland Security is available as a resource to you. You might have to wait a little while, but they will come in and put eyes on your plans and help you assess what you've got in place. There are a lot of agencies out there that are available to schools to promote safety. So there were a lot of things that were working really well and helped us out that day, but there were a tremendous amount of lessons that we learned.
In silos, more or less?
Very much so in silos, and that is what I've seen traveling the country. That is universally the greatest problem in common in school communities, is this working in silos. You know, I don't have to worry about this because the police take care of that. I don't have to worry about this because that's the principal's job. And I don't have to worry about this because that happens at home. That's the mom and dad's job. So this lack of collaboration in school safety and in raising our children, I see as a real problem for us.
All right, so we've had some threats and nervous times here in our own community of late. We'll talk about our approach to that and this whole notion about armed officers in elementary schools that I think we should have. Stay with us. You know, we've had some nervous times here, and you know, every clown in the world thinks that they can shake up a school environment now by phoning in a threat, and we've had these multiple district threats. And after Sandy Hook, Michele, there's no possible way that even before Sandy Hook, there really wasn't any way that we would ignore these kinds of threats. But since Sandy Hook, you just can't.
Again, it's everyone's worst nightmare. So, you know, it's a bit of a power play for somebody to make those threats, to send those letters in, to make those calls. And, you know, as a community, we have to take them seriously. You know, we have to have all of the appropriate stakeholders and authorities involved to root them out, to see if there's anything to them. It's been, you know, we have really good friends here in Rhode Island, and their children, there's 4 of them, and one of them is a special needs child, Joey's age. And for them, these threats have been especially devastating because they know personally how real a school-based tragedy can be.
Right.
And so to have, you know, even the threat repeatedly here in their community has been crippling to the family.
I would imagine that if you just tuned in, Michele is, I would never want to be nonchalant. You're a new town mom. Oh, okay, got it. And Joey was your daughter, and you lost her in this thing. And is there a proper way to refer to you
I
and all
don't
the
know.
parents?
We all stumble around it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you're so good at your nature is just so accommodating to the difficulty that others have.
I don't know what I would say
it.
if it was you. You know, how do you do it?
So with your Safe and Sound Schools program, are you doing a clinical analysis of a school district's current situation? I mean, you're kind of a hit and run consultant in a way, right?
In a way.
Or are you embracing a town and actually moderating a conversation between siloed stakeholders?
I would say it's more the latter.
You are. So you're really getting in and doing that.
Yeah, we don't do assessments. We don't do, you know, we don't. I certainly do walkthroughs with school administrators, teachers. And usually a safety team. That's my big thing. You got to have all of your stakeholders represented. And
but you have no training in this other than your education.
No, but I got good people. So thankfully, you're right. You know, this is based on my gut that we need to do something about it. And yes, an ordinary mom who used to be a teacher can actually have quite an impact in her school community.
I'm worried about teachers. I'm worried about teachers. The teacher unions and me don't always get along when it comes to the battles on compensation, pension, all that kind of thing. But I'll fight for their right to discipline students, which we don't do much of anymore. I'll fight for their individual rights a lot in terms of supplies and all of that. I'd like to be able to fight for their right to teach and not to teach safely, but not be responsible necessarily for school safety, the likes of which a lot of the conversations were exploding over since the terrible day. You know, people suggesting that teachers be trained in self-defense, be able to be armed, have the option to. The whole conversation started to get completely out of control. I mean, what 14-year-old kid right now who dreams of being a teacher wants to take on the added burden and responsibility of having to be gun trained?
Exactly.
So talk to me about that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, and I left the classroom about 10 years ago when my second child came on deck, and we realized that my salary was covering daycare at that point. But even in those days, my plate was so chock full of responsibility, and there wasn't really enough time to do it all in a 40-hour work week. There just wasn't. So this added responsibility of having to also now wear the hat of literally a protector or a police officer, it's ludicrous. And it's also when you look at the personality profiles of most educators, your Myers-Briggs, for instance, we're just not the kind of people that think that way.
No, but
you
you're
know?
protectors.
We are protectors,
it's
without a doubt.
It's a split dichotomy. Real quick, I think we ought to have armed police officers much more proximate to elementary schools. They are allegedly our precious cargo. We have armed officers in middle schools and high schools on a regular basis here. Do you agree with me?
I do, but I would take it a step further. Not just armed officers, they need to be specifically trained school resource officers. So yes, they are law enforcement officers, they are, police officers. However, this is a special breed of police officer, an SRO.
Oh, we don't have the budget. Oh, we have the budget to send them in the middle and the high schools, but we don't have the budget for, what?
I don't want to hear that, because I am a coupon clipper and a box top cutter, and I can fundraise like nobody's business, and so can every other parent in America. So just like we fundraise for smart boards and iPads and new playgrounds and copy machines and laminators, we can also do the same thing to address the very critical needs of safety in our community.
After the holidays, come to the radio show. We'll talk more about this. Congratulations on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you for the project, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You too.
In our prayers. Final thought or two when we come back. Stay with us. Alrighty, we want to hear what you think, and I'm sure this very provocative conversation would cause a lot of reaction from you. And I'd like to know what you think about the school safety issue. I'm still not happy with where we are in these private plans that none of you can know about. Anyway, your state of mind, 228-1886 is the phone number. Email me, Facebook, tweet, that whole thing. What a phenomenal project from such an unspeakable, speakable tragedy. Crime, actually. Tomorrow night, a revisit of the Roadmap RI debate, even though that issue has not been resolved. And on New Year's night, Phil West, secrets and scandals about government in Rhode Island. And Tim White, a Target 12 look back in 2014, all for the rest of the week. Thank you so much for watching. We're getting toward the new year, so it's okay to say Happy New Year.